Greetings, my fellow free blood sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date, Saturday, March 18th, 2017. Yeah. Didn't do a show for the past few days. And, just making a living like everybody else. Worked Voodoo Glow Skulls concert. I'm a promoter, associate concert promoter as well, so happened down in Miami. And it was a fun show, great vibe. The band is awesome. They've been doing it for almost 30 years, 29 years right now. Have a chance, check them out. Voodoo Glow Skulls, like ska punk from Southern California. Know how to have a party, I would say. Have it on St. Patrick's Day or St. Patrick's Night down at Churchill's. I'd like to thank that place, Churchill's Pub, which is 5501 Northeast 2nd Avenue, down in Miami, in the heart of downtown Little Haiti. Actually, it's called Lemon City originally. I have a feeling someone said, "Hey, how you call this area downtown Little Haiti?" This white bearded guy been saying it for the past 17 years. And it probably took my idea. But hey, don't bother me one bit. I just find that humorous, flattering when I see the banners. Downtown Little Haiti. And, so right now I'm at CJ's Java Lounge, located at 400 Southwest 1st Avenue, or they call it around Southwest New River Drive in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, right along the beautiful New River, where Club Squeeze used to be for all those chaps out there that remember the heydays of the 90s and the 80s and so forth. So, but the folks here are cool, mom, pop, run. So if you're tired of the big corporate coffee lounges, support the little guys in the local community, man. Like I always tell people, you want to help the economy, shop, support local merchants. All right, that'll be the best way to do it, because mainly your money stays in the community instead of somewhere in like Bentonville, Arkansas, a la Walmart. They're not, that's big. Well, that's pretty corporate. And don't get me wrong, we all have our bad habits too, including myself. I always try to take the initiative of checking out these small places, small facilities, and you know what? It is cool. I always adore it and build better relationships with folks. That's how you get by. It's funny because when people say that South Florida doesn't have the happiest people, I'll tell you one thing. For all you schlep rocks out there that complain about where you live, you better need to take a look into the mirror before you gripe. That's been the problem with human nature. You got a lot of individuals that complain too much, but they don't want to take any actions. And you know what? It is a waste of energy, as far as I'm concerned. And if you don't have any recommendations or ideas to make things better, you need to be quiet. Do something. Be proactive. Do a podcast, for goodness sakes. Or do a blog. To chat with the people in the community. You'll be surprised when you have that energy. Positive energy, PMA, positive mental altitude. Bad Brains, talk about that. And, of course, John Joseph and Chromags. Love them. It's good to have it, man. Have that in you. It's the nature in you. Because it happened to a colleague of mine complaining about South Florida, and he's up in somewhere up in the Midwest area. And he's complaining. Like, look, it's always look at yourselves before you complain. We're all human beings, my friends. I have my imperfections as well. And like I kicked a bowl of water, and my dog Jake's hanging out with me, chilling. He's like, "Yeah, Pops, we'll chill, and we'll go for a walk. We're definitely going to go for the walk." He likes walking around the river. All right, so I'm going to actually address in a couple of topics. I'm not going to be taking that long. I just had a nice long nap. I want to do a show earlier, but that's just how it goes. You got to recharge your life battery as well, your brain. And this is a couple commentaries, actually a couple things here about robots. And John Whitehead does this one. It's on Newsbuds. It's Ruled by Thieves, 1 week in life of the American kleptocracy. This came out a couple days ago. And as it reads here, our freedom had become casualties in an all-out war on the American people. There's a quote here. First, and the most important thing to understand about politics is this: forget right, left, center, socialism, fascism, or democracy. Every government that exists or ever will exist is a kleptocracy, meaning ruled by thieves. Competing ideologies merely provide different excuses to separate the productive class for what they produce. If the taxpayer voters won't willingly fork over to end poverty, then maybe they'll cough up to fight drugs or terrorism. Conflicting ideologies are presently constituted, are nothing more than a cover for what's really going on, like the colors of competing gangs. Author L. Neil Smith, and he's good. I have to really recommend any of his books, especially one called Hope, which he co-wrote with the late great Aaron Zellman, who was one of the founding members of Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. It's political science fiction, but I read that book. I may have talked about it before on my show. Read it in 2002, and I gotta say, it was one amazing novel. I call it a political science fiction novel. Get people to think, not this Mickey Mouse Club like you see, and this, especially this last election, like Yippee, like Huey and Dewey. Okay. Yes, I can say that to all you worshipers out there, and it's not out of malice or spite or hostility, but rather in good faith. Now I will continue on. The American kleptocracy, a government ruled by thieves, continues to suck the American people down in a rabbit hole into a parallel universe in which the Constitution is meaningless. The government is all-powerful, and the citizenry is powerless to defend itself against government agents who steal, spy, lie, plunder, kill, abuse, and generally inflict mayhem and sow madness on everything in this sphere. Case in point, in the same week that WikiLeaks dropped its bombshell about the CIA's use of spy tools to subject law-abiding Americans to all manner of government surveillance and hacking, there's a link for that. So everything I try to narrate, there are links. You could do the research, my friends. Do your homework. You won't be disappointed. A revelation that caused barely a ripple of concern among the citizenry. The government quietly and with little fanfare continued to wage its devastating, stomach-churning, debilitating war on the American people. Incredibly, hardly anyone noticed. Exactly. Feel the hype. Feel the hype. We hate freedom, but we want free crap. That's just an example. This begs the question, if the government is overstepping its authority, abusing its power, and disregarding the rule of law, but no one seems to notice and no one seems to care, does it matter if the government has become a tyrant? Remember, truth, justice, and the goody two-shoes way gets you nowhere. It's personal entrapment. Here's my short answer when government wrongdoing ceases to matter. America will have ceased to be. Just consider the devastation wrought in 1 week in the life of our American kleptocracy. On Monday, March 6th, police were given the go-ahead to keep stealing from Americans who were innocent of any wrongdoing. In refusing to hear a challenge to Texas asset forfeiture law, the U.S. Supreme Court allowed Texas police to keep $201,000 in ill-gotten cash, primarily on the basis that the seized cash and the proceeds of a home sale were being transported on a highway associated with a illegal drug trade, despite any proof of illegal activity by the owner. Asset forfeiture laws, which have come under intense scrutiny and criticism in recent years, allow the police to seize property suspected of being connected to a criminal activity without having to prove the owner of the property is guilty of a criminal offense. So what they're saying, kind of, sort of, it's the only way, kind of, sort of, will get us through the day. And that will continue on here. On May 1st, 2013, James Leonard was driving with a companion, Nakasa Kane, on U.S. Highway 59 in Texas when the vehicle was stopped by a state police officer for allegedly speeding and following another vehicle too closely. A subsequent search of the vehicle disclosed a safe trunk in the trunk, which Leonard explains belonged to his mother. None of his damn business, as far as I'm concerned. You folks got to stop being too nice to these governmental delegates. Have to be more vigilant. Lisa Leonard, and contained cash. That's the mother's name. Sorry, I just had to interject there. When the police officer contacted Lisa Leonard, she confirmed that the safe's contents belonged to her, that the contents constitute a personal business, and then she would not consent to allowing the officer to open the safe. After the officer secured a search warrant, the safe was opened and found $201,000 cash and a bill sale for a home in Pennsylvania. Neither the Leonards nor Kane would be found in the possession of illegal drugs. However, the state initiated civil forfeiture proceedings against the $201,000 on the ground that it was substantially connected to criminal activity because Highway 59 is reputed to be a drug corridor. Oh my goodness. 1984. Thought criminal. At trial, Lisa Leonard testified that the money was being sent to Texas so that she could use it to purchase a home for her son and Kane. Both trial and appeals courts affirmed the authority of state officials to seize and keep Leonard's funds under the state's asset forfeiture law, basing their ruling on wholly circumstantial evidence and the reputation of Highway 59. So it's like a cursed zone, okay? That's what these so-called dingleberries, okay, of Texas, which I'm not condemning the people of the state of Texas collectively, just to make that sure, because there's some awesome people from that state. A curse zone. Leonard then asked the U.S. Supreme Court to compel Texas to return her money, given that she was innocent of any crime and refusing to hear the case on a technicality. The Supreme Court turned its back on justice and allowed the practice for policing for profit to continue. Thank you, U.S. Supreme Court. Mao Tse-tung and Benito Mussolini would be extremely proud. Seek hail, hallelujah, and put your arms crossed. Go, yes, masters of the black robes, Uncle Toms and Aunt Jemimas, to the kleptocracy. Kleptocracy, exactly. All right, I'll continue on here. On Tuesday, March 7th, hacked information about the surveillance state was met with a collective shrug by the public, a sign of how indifferent the citizenry has become living in an electronic concentration camp. WikiLeaks confirmed that we suspected all along the government's ability to spy on law-abiding Americans is far more invasive than what we've been told. According to WikiLeaks' Vault 7 data dump, government agencies such as the CIA and the NSA have been spying on the citizenry through our smart TVs, listening on our phone calls, hacking into our computerized devices, including our cars, and compromising our security systems through the use of Trojan horses, spyware, and malware. So it's okay to talk on the phone and call them a bunch of fudge-packing, bend-over bombs and Uncle Toms and Aunt Jemima so they can hear your conversation. Start calling them out, all right, folks? As the WikiLeaks revelation confirms, we now have a fourth branch of government. The fourth branch came into being without any electoral mandate or constitutional referendum, yet it possesses superpowers above and beyond those of any other government agency save the military. It is all-knowing, all-seeing, and all-powerful. It operates beyond the reach of the president, Congress, and the courts, and it marches in the lockstep of the corporate elite who really calls the shots in Washington, D.C. You might know this branch of government as surveillance, but I prefer techno-tyranny, a term coined by investigative journalist James Bamford to refer to an age of technological tyranny made possible by government secrets, government lies, government spies, and their corporate ties. Beware of what you say, what you read, what you write, where you go, and with whom you communicate, because it will all be recorded, stored, and used against you eventually at a time and the place of government's choosing. Privacy, as we know it, is dead. Wednesday, March 8th, police were given further incentives to use the fear of my life rationale as an excuse for shooting unarmed individuals. Upon arriving on the scene of a nighttime traffic accident, an Alabama police officer shot a driver exiting his car, mistakenly believing the wallet is in the hand to be a gun. From the time the driver stumbled out of his car, waving his wallet in the air, to the time he was shot in the abdomen. Only 6 seconds has elapsed. So although the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals concluded that a reasonable officer in Hancock's position would have feared for his life, the video footage makes it clear that the courts continue to march in lockstep with the police because no reasonable person would shoot first and ask questions later. So if a cop starts shooting at you, if you shoot back at them, you're a criminal. But you know what? You might have to turn that tide and give them a taste of their own medicine by using these so-called presidential decisions, which it can lead to the road that way. And people go, oh, it's a war on cops. No, it's the war against freedom. All right? That's just an example. This is very absurd. I've seen that video too. All right? A report by the Justice Department on police shootings in Philadelphia, which boasts the fourth largest police department in the country, found that half of the unarmed people shot by police over a 7-year span were shot because the officer something like a cell phone or some action like a person pulling at the waist of their pants and is misidentified it as a threat. What exactly are we teaching these young officers in the police academy when the slightest thing, whatever it may be, a hand in a pocket, a man running towards them, a flashlight on a keychain, a wallet waved in the hand, or dehumanizing stare and ignite a strong enough fear for their safety to justify doing whatever it is deemed necessary to neutralize the threat, even if it means firing on an unarmed person? On Thursday, March 9th, police were given even more leeway in how much damage they can inflict on those they serve, and in the extent to which they can disregard the Constitution. Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in favor of a police officer who allowed a police dog to maul a homeless man innocent of any wrongdoing. A case arose in 2010 after a police dog attacked a homeless man near an abandoned home where police were tracking a robbery suspect. The cops refused to call off the dog immediately despite the man's pleading and the fact that he did not match the description of the robbery suspect. The homeless man suffered deep bites on his hand, arms, and thigh that required a nearly 16-inch skin graft, as well as severe bleeding, bruising, swelling, and an arterial blood clot. Incredibly, not only did the court declare that police was protected by qualified immunity, which incentivizes government officials to violate constitutional rights without fear of repercussion, but it had the nerve to suggest that being mauled by a police dog is the equivalent of a lawful Terry stop, in which police may stop and hold a person for questioning on the basis of reasonable suspicion. Can we say assumption is the way to go? This is called Police State 101, my friends, and hopefully everyone out there is paying attention. And I know this is not just happening in the United States, but around the world. I will continue on. Also on March 9th, government officials assured the Michigan Supreme Court that there was nothing unlawful, unreasonable, or threatening about the prospect of armed police dressed in SWAT gear knocking on his door at 4 a.m. asking the homeowners to engage in a warrantless knock and talk session. Although government lawyers insist citizens can choose to say no to such a heavy-handed request by police to conduct unwarranted investigations, and such coercive tactics are allowed, it will give SWAT teams further incentive to further terrorize anyone even remotely or mistakenly suspected of wrongdoing without fear of repercussion. So if you hear about more people start shooting at cops, my friends, which hopefully is not the case, but I may have to expect this, read this article again. Or listen to my show, doesn't matter, all right? I will proceed. On Friday, March 10th, the military-industrial complex continued to wage war abroad while government agencies, including members of the military, remained embroiled in controversies over sexual misconduct. A day after military brass defended the U.S.-led raid in Yemen that killed 10 children and at least 6 women. General Joseph Volto, the head of the U.S. Central Command, informed members of Congress that even before more U.S. troops were needed in Afghanistan to combat the Taliban, some 8,400 American troops have been stationed in Afghanistan since the U.S. invaded the country post 9/11. Approximately 400 more Marines were being sent to Syria to aid U.S. forces in the fight against ISIS. That same day, news reports indicated that members of several branches of the U.S. military, including the Marines, have been using online bulletin boards to either share or solicit nude or explicit photos and videos of women in the military. One Facebook page for Marines, which has nearly 30,000 followers, contained graphic language about how women photographed, some without their knowledge or consent, should be treated. As the Center for Investigative Reporting, CIR, revealed, one member of the Facebook group suggested that the service member sneaking the photos should take her out back and pound her out. Others suggested more than vaginal sex and butthole and throat and ears, both of them. Video throw it for science, according to CIR. The photo sharing began less than a month after the first Marine infantry unit was assigned women. The FBI has also been getting on the photo sharing gig. Only its agents have been disturbing child porn, allegedly in an effort to catch consumers of child porn. Curiously, the Department of Justice has opted to drop its case against the man accused of child pornography rather than be forced to disclose the FBI tactics for spying on suspected child porn consumers and entrapping them as part of its Operation Pacifier sting. What the case revealed was that for a little while, a single-minded pursuit of lawbreakers, the FBI became a lawbreaker itself as the largest distributor of child pornography. All told, the FBI uploaded tens of thousands of images of child pornography to the dark web. So what these bastards are doing, all right, is fishing every single one of folks, trying to fish out folks to entrap them. But they are so exceptional, so effing special. Could we say blasphemous to the core? As reporter Brian Clark points out, at the intersection of the technology and law, we've proven two things as a result of the Operation Pacifier. One, government bodies have proven their willingness to circumvent or even break the law to capture suspected criminals. It is not even willing to prosecute. Two, we are living in an age where agencies like the FBI, criminals, and their victims are less important than the tools used to track them down. It is hard to argue on the side of an alleged pedophile, but in this case, the FBI was the pedophile's equal. It was the agency, you recall, that disseminated these images to some 150,000 registered members. Look at that. They're trying to. It looks like the FBI and the private prison groups or corporations are bending each other over and wearing his and his towels. This means the FBI perpetrated the same heinous crimes and attempted to charge with others with, all while securing what could result in zero convictions. Mind you, this was just 1 week of shootings, degradation, excessive force, abuse of power, and complicity in the American police state. Magnify the impacts of these 52 times over because they are taking place every week in this country, and you will find yourself weak at the knees. Somewhere over the course of the past 200 plus years, democracy has given the way to kleptocracy, and representative governments has been rejected in favor of rule by career politicians, corporations, and thieves, individuals and entities with little regard for the rights of American citizens. The dissolution of that sacred covenant between the citizenry and the government, establishing we the people as the masters and the government as the servant, didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen because of one particular incident or one particular president. It processed one that began long ago and continues in the present day, aided and abetted by politicians who have mastered the polarizing art of how to divide and conquer. Unfortunately, there's no magic spell to transport us back to a place and time where we, the people, weren't merely fodder for a corporate gristmill operated by government-hired hands whose priorities are power and money. Our freedoms have become casualties in the all-out war of the American people. As I make clear in my book, Battlefield, the war on the American people, this war is being fought on many fronts. with bullets and tasers, whilst with surveillance cameras and license readers, with intimidation and propaganda, with court rulings and legislation, with the collusion of every bureaucrat on the government's payroll, and most effectively of all, with the complicity of the American people who continue to allow themselves to be easily manipulated by the politicians, distracted by their pastimes, and acclimated to a world in which government corruption is the norm. How do we stop the hemorrhaging? Start by waking up, pay attention to what's going on around you. Most of all, think for yourself. As H.L. Mencken observed, the most dangerous man to any government is a man who is able to think things out for himself without regarding to the prevailing superstitions and taboos. Almost inevitably, he comes to the conclusion that government he lives under is dishonest, insane, and intolerable. And so, if he is romantic, he tries to change it. And if he is not romantic, personally, he is very apt to spread discontent among those who are. Just to let you know, John W. Whitehead is a spokesman for the president and spokesperson for the Rutherford Institute. He's right. This is why, my friends, when I see these stupid ass memes like from Occupy Democrats and Republicans, it's boring, pathetic, and downright degrading. It's been going on for a very long time. Now everyone's angry because Trump's president. Give me a break. You should have been pissed off a long time ago. But you believe the hype and hoopla of yes, we scam, or you're with us or you're terrorists, and a lot of people are playing, yeah, he's right. And many of you probably were convinced during that time that they attacked us on 9/11 because of our freedoms. When are you going to start observing things on your own? And don't get me wrong, it is happening. But more folks out there are still in that one-dimensional wavelength, flatlined. I'm not going to say the majority. I will say a great amount. But others out there are being like-minded, which is good too. We got to keep that movement going. Eternal vigilance is the key to liberty. So, what are you going to do? Make things happen on the local level. Yeah, like I said, I see these ass clowns in Fort Lauderdale. They think they're smarter than everybody else because they're lawyers. Come on, give these folks a peanut microphone treatment. I'm not saying they're all bad and everything, but they're pretty. They assume you guys are useless eaters. So, and that's why when you think the government delegates are higher than everybody else, I'll tell you one thing. There's some police officers out there that probably say, what the hell are we doing? They're tired of being deputies of Nottingham or being their governmental Uncle Toms and Aunt Jemimas. I observe, I pay attention, and listen to them. They want to keep the peace in the community, which is fine. I'm not condemning them. Yeah, I have my disputes with a few of them, but I'm not going to condemn the whole entire entity or institution. But I do it on principle. And many of them that chat with me and understand. They're human beings too. Because what happens if many of them that proceed this tyranny, they're gonna it's gonna buy them right in the butt when they least expect it. They go, what have I done wrong? So those individuals, your time will be running short. Is running short, and it will blow back in your faces. And don't come crying to us if you're gonna be corrupt or tyrannical, because all I gotta say is two interesting cases that happened in the 20th century. Batson, Tennessee, and other one is I forgot the name. Shoot. Yeah, is that right to happen in New York? I was kidding. Probably people could smack me later. But yeah, I've just been tired, so my mind's not all there. But something you have to look at, my friends, is stay productive, be proactive in different avenues. Don't go ape crap, because that's not the way to do it. Finesse is the key. So I'm going to be hitting this next one here. I'll read my final thing I'm going to read. By Wired Magazine. It came out a couple of days ago. It begins. Bots are learning to chat in their own language. By Kadam Metz from Metz Business. Igor Mordash is working to build machines that carry on a conversation. That's something so many people are working on in Silicon Valley. Chatbot is about a bona fide buzzword, but Mordak is different. He is not a linguist. He doesn't deal with AI techniques that typically reach for language. He's a roboticist who began his career as an animator. He spent time at Pixar and worked on Toy Story 3 between stints as an academic at places like Stanford and the University of Washington, where he taught robots to move like humans. Creating movement from scratch is what I was always interested in. He says, now that all this expertise is coming together in an unexpected way. Born in Ukraine and raised in Toronto, the 31-year-old is now visiting researchers at OpenAI. Hold on here. Okay, so next, hold on here. Whoop-doo. The artificial intelligence lab started by Tesla founder Elon Musk and Y Combinator president Sam Altman. There, Mordak is exploring a new path to machines that can not only converse with humans, but with each other. He's building a virtual world and where software bots learn to create their own language out of necessity. As detailed in a research paper published by OpenAI this week, Mordak and his collaborators created a world where bots are charged with completing certain tasks like moving themselves to a particular landmark. The world is simple, just a big white square, all of 2 dimensions, and the box are colored shapes, a green, red, or circle blue, but the point of the universe is more complex. The world allows the bots to create their own language as a way collaborating, helping each other to complete those tasks. All this happened through what are called reinforcement learning, the same fundamental technique that underpinned AlphaGo, the machine from Google's DeepMind's AI lab that cracked the ancient game of Go. Basically, the bots navigate their world through extreme trial and error, carefully keeping track of what works and what doesn't as they reach for a reward. Like arriving at a landmark, if particular actions help them achieve that reward, they know to keep doing it in the same way they learn to build their own language. Telling each other where to go helps them get all places more quickly. As Mordash says, we can reduce the success of dialogue too. Did you end up getting to the green can or not? To build their language, the bots assign random abstract or characters to simple concepts that they learn as they navigate their virtual world. They assign characters to each other, to locations or objects in their virtual worlds, and to actions like go to or look at. Mordash and his colleagues hope that these bot languages become more complex, related techniques that can translate them into languages like English. That is a long way off, at least as a practical piece of software. But another OpenAI researcher is already working on this kind of translator bot. Ultimately, Mordak says those methods can give machines a deeper grasp of language, actually show them why language exists, and that provides a springboard to real conversation, a computer interface that computer scientists have long dreamed of but never actually pulled off. These methods are a significant departure from most of the latest AI research related to language. Today, top researchers typically exploring methods that seek to mimic human language, not create a new language. One example is work centered on a deep neural networks. In recent years, deep neural nets, complex mathematical systems that can learn tasks by finding patterns in vast amount of data, have proven to be enormously effective. way of recognizing objects in photos, identifying commands spoken into smartphones, and more. Now, researchers at places like Google, Facebook, and Microsoft are applying similar methods to language understanding, looking to identify patterns in English conversations, so far with limited success. Mordek and his collaborators, including OpenAI researcher and University of California, Berkeley professor Peter Abil, question whether that approach can ever work. So they're starting from a completely different place. For agents to intelligently interact with humans, simply capturing these tactical patterns is insufficient. Their paper reads, an agent possesses an understanding of language when it can use language along with other tools such as nonverbal communication or physical acts to accomplish goals in this environment. With early humans, language came from necessity. They learned to communicate because it helped them to do other stuff, gave them an advantage over animals. These open AI researchers want to create the same dynamic for bots. In their virtual world, the bots not only learn their own language, they also use simple gestures and actions to communicate, pointing in a particular direction, for instance, or actually guiding each other from place to place, much like babies do. That too is language, or at least a path to language. Still, many AI researchers think deep neural network approach, figuring out language through statistical patterns in data will still work. They are essentially also capturing statistical patterns, but in a simple artificial environment, says Rich Soker, an AI researcher at Salesforce of an open AI team. That's fine to make progress in interesting new domain, but abstract claims a bit too much. Nonetheless, Mordak's project shows that analyzing vast amounts of data isn't the only path. Systems can also learn through their own actions, and that may ultimately provide very different benefits. Other researchers at OpenAI teased much the same idea when they unveiled a much larger, more complex virtual world they call Universe. Among other things, the universe is a place where bots can learn to use common software applications like web browsers. This too happens through a form of reinforcement learning. And for Elva Suskever, one of the founders of the OpenAI, the arrangement is yet another path to language understanding, and AI can only browse the internet if it understands the natural way humans talk. Meanwhile, Microsoft is tackling language through other forms of reinforcement learning, and researchers at Stanford are exploring their own method that involves collaboration between bots. In the end, success will likely come from a combination of techniques, not just one. And Mordak is proposing yet another technique, one where bots don't just learn to chat, they learn to chat in a language of their own making, as humans have shown that is a powerful idea. So it could benefit or distract humanity, I would say. This is, like I said, you have to look at everything. Of course, even Dr. Anton LaVey talk about artificial companions, so this may perfect that as well. The humanoids, the humanoid age, right? Absolutely. Sometimes you got to look at things a lot broader. I'm expecting something like this when they learn and program them to be more like humans. A lot of things, dark side things can happen. So it'll be fascinating in one way, and it'll be scary in the other. It depends who's controlling it. But we're going to have those individuals. We're going to look at both ends. But I have really much to say that's all on that. And that is it. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you want to send me something that's interesting and may want to check out, whatever you do, please address your correspondence with decorum. You can keep me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Scene.life, and Minds.com. Or you can email me at LokiLuck3, which is LokiLuck3 @gmail.com. All right, my friends, that is all for now. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.